Good evening. We're calling this meeting to order at 4:30 p.m. And if you will all stand and join us in the salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. We have Commissioner Ryan. We have Commissioner Paul. Commissioner Span. Commissioner Rogers is here. Commissioner Vargas. Commissioner Martinez. And Commissioner Kelleher.
Here.
Thank you. Do we have any oral communications?
None.
All right, wonderful. Have you all had a chance to review the minutes? And do we have a motion?
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Voting is open. Motion approved, 7-0.
Wonderful. Okay, our first presentation is by the Escondido Community Foundation. Thank you for coming tonight.
I'll stand, but that means that I have to tell you. Okay. Hi. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Lisa Reuter, and I'm the chair of the Escondido Community Foundation's Art and Beautification Committee. Go ahead. Straightforward. The goal of our committee is to add more great art to Escondido. It's a little arrow.
Yeah.
Today we're excited to be presenting 5 projects we'll be funding in Escondido. Included in the audience are some of our committee members and at least one artist.
That's the on button. So sorry.
Okay, how are we funded? Through independent donations and donations through the plaques that are on the Escondido Arch. First, a brief summary of the process, which was extensive and highly selective. We started in October of 2022 identifying how to work toward our goal of adding more art in Escondido. Our work was highly supported by the city, who understands that art enhances the city and becomes an economic driver. With this in mind, we looked at communities that do art well. The La Jolla murals, the Liberty Station Sculpture Gallery, and the Ramona Mural Project. We also talked to the curator of art for the city of San Diego. All of these experiences led our committee to the following process. First, a request for qualifications, or RFQ, where we were able to look at the previous work of the artists. So we saw their websites and previous works. We received more than 50 RFQs from not only local artists, but artists from locations like Brazil and Canada. Our committee members were highly impressed and excited with the level of art we saw in this and all of the rounds. Next, we selected 20 plus artists to submit an RFP, or request for proposals, and complete with timeline and budget. During this RFP process, the artists met with the city to identify the city's actual requirements for their projects and the realities of the requirements. And this allowed the artists to understand and better budget for their project. One project you will see required approval by a professional engineer. This project also needed a very special space, so city operations and engineering combed the city looking for a great place for this art. Next, we selected 8 artists to present their projects during 20-minute sessions. During these sessions, we were able to gauge the experience and commitment the artist brings to the project. This was important because we see ourselves as investing in the community, and we wanted to make certain that the donor funds we spent provided the best possible impact for our community. We expected a lot from the artists, and we're not disappointed. Here's a quick look at the level of professionalism we saw in the presentations. So this is a work plan. Now for the artwork. There are 3 that are actually on city property. The first one is the Escondido Library, created by Tim Popolo. This is the walls that we're talking about. This is taken over by Esco Gelato, so just to give you perspective of where we are. On the next page, you'll see the first of 2 options. The plan is to get the community input by allowing the library patrons and general public to provide their input and preferences. This is option 1, so there's 2 options that'll be looked at. A few things to notice about the mural. She's dressed in traditional Kumeyaay clothing, reading a book that illuminates her with the stories of her people. The characters leap out and take over the night sky. As the characters from the book jump through the sky, some become constellations from the Kumeyaay traditional astrology, and others make it down to the ground where they are transformed into Kumeyaay petroglyphs. I don't know if you can see that all from your screens. That's on the left side. On the right side, you see motifs that we're all familiar with, the floral patterns inspired by Cinco de Mayo, and then oranges around the dome for the city building. So that's option 1, the woman with the book and constellations. The second option is a mural that highlights the Kumeyaay creation story. At the very bottom, you'll see a campfire scene where an old woman takes the creation story to her friends. Her hands spread out, and the magical blue narrative thread comes out of them and takes the viewer across a spanning landscape that tells the tale of 2 brothers and their journey through time. The story is also told through curving lines of text. So I want to draw your attention to that that's actually text, not just lines, so that the visitors can read and understand the story better. That's the first project. The second project is on the Escondido Creek Trail by Sasha Red. This is the location. Let me orient you on this one. This is behind the Mission Fed building, which you can see in the upper right-hand corner. Across from Mission Fed, I had to drive it to figure this one out, is actually where Home Depot is. So to give you perspective, it's also halfway between Harding and Rose. There will be significant community input for this, with meetings from local organizations to help identify the appropriate flora, fauna, and people. So as you look at this, this is the idea of it, which I think you'll think is wonderful, but it may need a little bit of tweaking. This is the first picture. I have 3 pictures, so I'll give you, so it's along 3 locations. The wall from the Mission Fed building, that yellow you'll see in just a minute, and then on either side of the creek. Here's another view of it, and a third view. So it starts on the wall with the women and the children in the traditional Kumeyaay dress and a necklace. And then painted along the trail is a sunburst, which is actually taken from like the bottom of a basket that's been woven. And then across either side of the creek will be native flora and fauna. And again, that will be identified more specifically in community input sessions. So that's the second project. And then the third project is Kit Carson Park by Art Builds Collective. This one's a sculpture. It's a little difficult to understand where this is. If you see Queen Califia's garden, at the bottom of the hill. This is at the top and the right-hand side. And this is the sculpture. This was the one that required a really special location. This is one where the artist went above and beyond. They actually went camping at Dixon Lake because that was one of the possible locations. Turned out that didn't work out as well because the people couldn't get to it. So some of the things that we thought were really important is that people could get to the art. So it's Instagrammable, because we'd like to see more of Escondido show up in places, and that it really reflected high, great art. So those are the three that are in the city. Then we thought we'd also give you the two projects that are on private property. The first one is called All Roads Lead to Escondido. It will be on the Jor Muffler location, and it's by Zane Kincaid. The next one is really unusual, and it's done by a person that was actually a high school student here in Escondido. What?
A question before you go. Which wall is this? What is this facing? Oh, on Valley Parkway.
It faces toward the high school. There's a big...
So it's like an east-facing wall.
door.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. The artist on this one is David Egenbaugh. This will be placed in North County Fair. This was quite different than most art we see. It is actually light and sound, and the mall will be putting seating below so that people can experience and look up and enjoy this art. So these are our 5 new pieces of art. Any questions? Yes.
You know the materials?
The materials for this, I believe it's like a silk on a aluminum frame, and it makes a rotation, and it's got video projectors.
Yeah.
That do this. Yeah.
North County Fair has been bought over. Is the new management involved in this one?
The new management,
Yeah.
it's taking this one. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's for them. Yeah.
Thank you.
And they've been really supportive.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. So, and we thought, we had some discussion about this because it's the mall, it's owned privately, but we all think of it as a very public space. So we thought we would fund something, and I think it would be a great addition to the mall. So,
I think the mall needs it, and it's really quite lovely.
yes.
I agree. I think that the mall is a great choice because they are working so hard to reinvent themselves. This is wonderful.
Great.
I think it's a great idea, and I love the colors. It makes me smile. Lisa, where is this exactly?
You know
Ish.
where Penny's is?
Yeah.
And then a little bit toward where you go with the escalators, there's a walkway.
Okay.
And it will be mounted under the walkway. They were looking for an area that would be a little darker,
Uh-huh.
and because
Illuminated.
it's, yeah, light. So that's where we understand it will be. It is 6 feet tall, so it comes down in, the mall's high.
Uh-huh.
So, but it's a pretty substantial piece.
And what's it illuminated with?
What?
How is it illuminated?
There are projectors that are then inside that will be projecting out.
And it's stationary, or is it?
I'm not positive on that. It gives the feel of motion either way.
Okay. Even looking at it gives you the feel of motion.
Yeah. And the part that you can see a rippling effect, not just in the artwork, but the screen. It's not rigid on the bottom, so it will be moved by breeze too.
Hmm. Very thought out.
Any other?
How far off the ground is this?
I can't tell you, but it's, yeah, we
Safely
did,
off the
yes,
ground.
we talked to the artist and said, you do remember that San Luis High School's really close to there? This has got plenty of leeway for this, so, yeah. 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 As I said, we went through a lot of questions within our own committee to make sure that we were getting something we were going to be happy with, weren't going to be having trouble with afterwards. So, any other?
Could we go back to the sculpture in Kit Carson?
Yeah.
I'm just curious about the symbolism behind this.
It's called, the artist isn't here, it's called Threshold 5. There was nothing provided as far as symbolism. It's a beautiful piece of art.
Thank you.
It looks like from every angle, it takes on a whole different
Yes.
aspect.
Yes.
That's what I really like about
Yes.
it. Is viewers like to feel it's their personal interpretation, and that lends itself to do that.
And that's why the city worked so hard. I think this was one of the favorites of all of the people that were involved. Even we had a professor from Point Loma join our committee as we had the discussions with the artists, and even he thought this was one of his favorites. So we're all excited to see this. I'll also point out there isn't a pad under this. Has pylons, which gives it a different feel too. So it's very much more connected to the earth than separate piece of art.
Okay. So what is it made out of?
Oh, I forgot to tell you that. It is made out of what's called cordon weathering steel, and so it has this rusted appearance, but they said that graffiti can be just washed off.
So is that a metal or is it a?
It's a steel, yeah.
Can you see it from the Magic Circle?
You know, I didn't get down there. I don't think
It's
so.
yeah, it doesn't look like you
It's
can.
not just a little bit, the rise is just a little bit before that. And the other part that we're hoping for is, you know, where the parking lot is, there's a lot of vegetation, so you can't see it there. But some of the other places that we looked at didn't have nearly the number of people going past it, so this is how we chose this one over some.
So, is there going to be a sign? Are we going to direct people? Are we going to tell people it's there? I know that we don't do that with the Queen, and that's because she intended it that way. But this is going to be another walk of discovery. That's cool. If they know they're looking for more than one thing, that's a good thing. I like it.
Commissioner Rogers is a great question, and that could be something that the commission can work with the foundation and the artist to make those determinations at a later time.
Great. Thank you.
One more question, and I'm so sorry. How deep is that? How
Right,
much
some
distance?
dimensions. So it's 8 feet tall is the tallest one, and 3.5 feet for the smallest one, and they're placed approximately 3 feet apart, so it covers 12 feet.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's my last question.
How thick are the bars? I don't.
I think
I
they're
want
about 4 by 4.
Okay. I just, I don't know, just something that comes to my mind is like, it reminds me of monkey bars in a way.
And we all asked that, and they were familiar with this. So this Art Builds Collective does phenomenal projects. We got to see their website. They're worth looking up, and they're very functional in what they do, and they know that this needs to be, again, it's by the high school, so there'll be people there.
Awesome. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Thank you so much. These are wonderful. Thank you for all you do.
And Chair
Thank
Rogers,
you for your help.
and Chair Rogers, prior to this item concluding, the commission does need a vote to accept these art pieces.
Ah, okay.
And I want to thank everyone that worked on this. I'll give you your.
Wait a minute, I have one more question. So the library paintings,
Yes.
we have to choose one of those two?
So it will be 2 options, and it will be, we'll work with the city, and it'll be posted so that people can say their preferences,
Yeah,
which allows us to get some input.
okay.
Again, we're funding it, that'll influence our final vote. So you have to okay both of them.
Okay,
I think that's what your question is.
yes.
I'll just say one more thing about that. Preference-wise, and this is just my own preference, I just love the idea of it being a library and all these ideas coming out of the person's head and manifesting on the wall there. One more back. Yeah,
Yeah, that one.
that just, it's yeah, gorgeous. And you don't have to know what it says to know what it says.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what input we get.
Do you mind if we have just a quick review over all of them
Sure.
before we vote? Is that all right?
Okay, so there's 4 that you look at, but the first one's 2, right? This is option 1 of the first one, the one with the book and constellations. This is the creation story. This is the creek trail. And this is the best picture of that. And again, down below there's notes on how big this is. It's 60 feet long by 40 feet. Wow. Yeah, it's a lot. It's beautiful though. I love this one. One of my favorites. They all are. Okay, and then this one. And then you don't need to vote on the private property ones. Any additional questions?
A motion to approve these projects.
I second it.
Voting is open.
Thank you.
Motion approved, 7-0.
Thank you again. Robert, you're up.
You're going to get a lot of me today, just like you are every week, right? All right. So, good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Robert Rhodes. For the record, I'm the Assistant Director of Community Services, and I am your staff liaison. So, we are going to talk about a couple of different things. We've just recently completed the presentation for the Escondido Community Foundation, which is great. The next item that I have up is the Escondido Expressions 2024-2025 work plan. So just as a quick reminder for the commission, on May 20th, when you met, you approved the 2024-2025 annual work plan. And the Escondido Expressions program was a part of the art solicitation objective within that specific work plan. So I'm going to be covering today is an overview of the program and the recommendations from the Escondido Expressions subcommittee. So, just as a quick overview of the program, and you are all very familiar with it, but I just wanted to touch base with you on one more time, is that the Escondido Expressions program paints traffic signal boxes, and this has been done in a 2-phase pilot program that has thus far included 10 boxes. Right now, the Public Works Department is assessing the impact of the traffic signal boxes over the course of summer 2024, so that it might note any degradation to the signals, to the traffic signals. Thus far, we've not had any issues. Last summer was a relatively mild summer. As anybody's experienced over the course of the last week, it looks like this is not going to be a particularly mild summer. So they're going to have some really great data to be able to compare this to. As also, the artists do receive a $500 stipend to cover materials and a small artist fee that they are expected to conduct any type of preparatory work on those particular boxes, as the Public Works Department does not do any of that preparatory work for them. So the annual work plan for this coming year, 24-25, has identified 15 boxes and locations throughout the city with very specific themes for each of those particular boxes that will reflect the public art strategic plan that you also voted on the May 20th meeting. And that includes valuing art that unifies, art that celebrates, art that educates, and art that remembers, and art that inspires. Very quickly, this is a map of the approximate locations. Please forgive my dots as they may be just a little bit off. The red dots representing the proposed locations, whereas the green dots are representative of the existing box locations in phases 1 and 2. You'll see a very heavy concentration of those green dots in the very core of the city. And I do believe that the subcommittee that was a part of this did a great job at making sure those were dispersed throughout the city. You'll note the distribution of the different city council districts, whereas District 1 has 2 boxes, District 2 has 2 boxes, a little bit heavy in District 3 with 6 boxes, and then District 4 has 5 boxes. So, let's go through and start talking about the different themes, these and locations. These are the first 5 locations. The first one being on Grand Avenue and Center City Parkway. The chosen theme for that one would be Cruising Grand as a gateway into the city and that particular event that happens every summer. The second box is the Bear Valley Parkway and San Pasqual Road, right at Kit Carson Park, adjacent to San Pasqual High School. That theme is animals or the zoo as, again, a gateway into the San Diego Safari Park. The next box is North Broadway at Grape Day Park. That's that mid-street crossing. For that particular theme, they are looking at historic events, ones that are held in Grape Day Park, which may include the Grape Day Festival, which happened between 1908 and 1950. Thank you, Commissioner Ryan, for providing that information. I appreciate that. As well as grape smashing and Mexican folkloric dancers. The next box would be at Felicita Avenue and Center City Parkway. That theme would be dairy or orange groves. There is an asterisk there, and I do want to point out part of the reason for that asterisk is that as a part of this process, the subcommittee is requesting, instead of $500 stipend for this particular box, a $750 stipend for this particular box. What we've identified is this will require some additional work to the particular box as far as sanding off the existing flaking and peeling paint that is on that box, as well as a little bit more prep work that is not required with some of those other boxes. So that's why we are requesting a little bit more. The next one is Lake Wolford Road and Valley Center Road, just as you start up the grade. And that would be Native American art with preference to our local tribes. The next series of boxes, the next one is Juniper and 5th Avenue. That happens to be in the old Escondido Historic District, which would be the theme for that particular box. The next one being at Metcalf Street and Mission Avenue. That would be lemon and orange packing. There was an old lemon and orange packing facility over there historically. Then we also have Ash Street and Lincoln Avenue. Again, this would be a dairy. Now, what is unique about this particular box is that the subcommittee is asking this be an interactive box to appeal to youth. And of course, we would leave that to the artist to define what that might be specifically. However, the idea is that because this box sits adjacent to Pioneer Elementary School, the idea behind the interactive would that they would potentially search for some sort of item, whether if it's dairy, it would be like the number of cows that might be present or something along those lines, or it could be potentially even posing in a manner that interacts with the artwork in something that is Instagrammable, especially right next to the particular school. So the next box that we'd be talking about would be at Midway Drive and East Valley Parkway. You do recall that we just completed the mural artwork over there at Palomar College, which looks amazing. And so the theme for this box would be a little bit more modern, potentially celestial, considering it's Palomar College and they're the home of the Commons. So again, those are the themes for that. The next box is Midway Drive and Mission Avenue, and that would be Mexican or Latino heritage, so that would be the theme for that one. In the next series of boxes, and this is the last grouping of 5, this would be at North Broadway and El Norte Parkway, and this would be the people of Escondido. The subcommittee believed that there was a very high trafficked area, especially being that there is a residential senior facility that is located right there, as well as the high school. It's just down the street. It's a very high traffic walking and pedestrian area, so they felt the people of Escondido would be appropriate for that particular location. We also have Harding Street and East Valley Parkway. This would be our second box with Native American art. This does not have a preference for the local tribe, so it is just general Native American art. The following box would be at North Tulip and West Valley Parkway. This particular box would be to complement the community sculpture that we would potentially, that we still have over there. And so again, the theme for this particular box is community. The next box being Felicita Avenue and Juniper Street. This particular box they've chosen to have as an open theme, but again, an interactive box that would appeal to youth because a half a block away is Juniper Elementary School. So again, a very high trafficked crossing specifically for schools during that period of time. The last box that they have listed is Escondido Boulevard and 13th Avenue. What was interesting about that particular location, it seemed to be somewhat devoid of color. So the theme here is a high color box. So something that is open, but we wanted a heavy or high color is what they were requesting. So those are the 15 locations, as well as the themes associated with each of those locations. We want to touch base with you really quick on the call for artists and what that process is going to look like. It is a formal process. This is not something that we have done previously. So what this is as a formal process that we are going to be giving notice to artists through our various networks. That includes yourself as artists and associations with artists. And we're going to be pushing that out to the general public. One of the things that we would need to do is the creation of a call for artists packet. Considering this is the first time the city has done something like this, it's going to take us a little bit of time to be able to kind of put this packet together. That will include a variety of background information, the details about the approved locations, including the pictures of the locations and of the boxes, their specific location, and the themes that are listed that we just recently went through. And then, of course, we also would like to put the artist agreement. Right now, we're in the process of revising that artist agreement, and the reason for that is because that currently the artist agreement that we have is dedicated specifically to murals and muralists. So, as we start to explore a lot of the public art strategic plan and start doing more art solicitation, we're finding that we are going to be diving much more into kind of the sculpture and some more potentially alternative artwork. And so as a result, we are looking to craft a artist agreement that is much more inclusive than what it is currently. So as a result, we do have to give our city attorney's office some time to be able to review all the legal necessary points within those agreements to be able to move forward. Provided all of that can be done in a good amount of time, what we're looking at, and as far as our timeline is concerned, is a call for artists would be sometime in the month of August of this year. And then after that, we would have about approximately 30 days, what we'd be looking at, about 30 days. And then we'd be receiving those submissions back in the month of September with public input for the month of October. And then by the time your November meeting rolls around, it would be an opportunity for you to be able to vote on those final submissions. That's the approximate timeline. So, as a result, the staff recommends the approval of the proposed locations, the themes, the increased stipend for the single unit for that traffic signal box in order for us to conduct that call for artists. That concludes my portion of the presentation, and I am here to answer any questions if you have them.
Is there any way I could see, because I'm trying to like visualize where 13th and Escondido Boulevard is? Is there
I'm going to tell you, I didn't do a great job on this.
Escondido.
Oh, so it's further down from the Sprouts? No, it's or further.
It's near
Yeah,
the
it's
wall,
further south. Yeah.
Can I would love to see, because that side of town, I agree, needs, first of all, well, this is a great plan. Like, thank you to the subcommittee for like putting this all together, and this is really well thought out. And I love that all these pieces are very well thought out, depending on like the areas that they're in. So with that in mind, I agree that area does need a lot of color and a lot of love. But I also I drive through there every day, and one thing that I've been noticing is that there's a lot of our Central American community that has that tend to be there in those areas. There's a couple of stores that are catered to the Central American community. So I'm wondering, I don't know if everyone would be interested in doing this, but maybe we could have something in high color there that kind of ties into our new community that's moving into that area.
Do you mean Central, so like Costa Ricans?
No, like
Guatemalan.
Guatemalans.
Oh, Guatemalans, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would agree with you. I also drive down by there, but because I live on 14th Avenue, so I see it every day, which is why that was sort of my intention on leaving it open-ended. But I would also agree. I want to see more of that, especially because that area has a lot of multi-family homes.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be opposed to that.
I think that leaving it open to high color rather than narrowing it will give you a better opportunity to see more diverse artwork. And then if you see something that absolutely fits your vision, you could certainly vote for that.
You can trust that I'll be on the lookout for something. But yeah, because that was my pick. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I just think it's a good opportunity to be welcoming to our new. So, I mean, sure, I'll leave it as it is, but it'd be awesome to see something like that for sure.
What we saw, and you're absolutely right, what we saw was a sub-community living there within the city limits and rejoicing with that through color, through movement, and we're hoping an artist comes forward that can display that and convey that feeling. But everybody on this commission will be part of the input towards the end when we get down to finals. But I totally understand and agree with you.
This will also have public input, is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of our art solicitations going forward will have public input.
Right. So I would like to make a motion to approve this.
Oh, before we do this, I just wanted to clarify one thing. August is the call for artists, September is receiving them, and then October is choosing, right? Oh, public input.
Correct. So there will be, as far as the subcommittee is concerned, there will be a couple of meetings that will need to be in attendance for. So when we do the call for artists, once we receive those submissions back, so before that information goes out to the public, the subcommittee would need to meet to determine if we have, let's say, a large number of selections for a particular box, then the subcommittee would need to meet to potentially narrow that scope of boxes before it gets sent out to the public for their specific input. So if, for example, let's say we received five selections for the Escondido Boulevard and 13th Avenue box. So the subcommittee would meet. They would decide that of those, we only want to provide the public with maybe 3, so they would have to narrow that scope a little bit and select just 3 artists to move forward for public input. Then immediately after that, prior to it going to the full commission, what would happen is they would meet again, receive that input, whatever that might be from the public. Let's say if we've done of online voting, and the voting was, X number for this one, X number for that one, X number for that one. There's one that might be a very clear winner. They say, I like that, and they move that one potentially forward to the commission. It's also entirely possible, let's say the subcommittee did not care for the ones that the public had selected. What they may choose to do is push that to you as the full commission to say, we prefer this one, the public prefers this one. As a commission, how do we choose to move forward with this? So those are all options that are potentially on the table.
Robert, I understand what you're saying. One thing that I know that's important is being able to get a small portfolio so that we see some samples of actual work that they do, not Photoshop. And I really want to emphasize that. That's really important.
And that could definitely be something that's incorporated into the call for artists, for sure.
I have one more comment about, I know the work that went into the hours and hours of work the committee put into this with the thoughtfulness of the ones that were selected and just the history bringing it back to Escondido. I just got to commend you guys. It's awesome. I had one question about we have one of the boxes on Escondido Boulevard and Grand by that seems like it's fading out. It's on the northeast side, and it looks unfinished. Is there something that's going to be done about that? And I don't know if this is the right time to bring
Yeah,
it.
I'm not sure this is the right time for that. We should vote on this before we go into past boxes, I believe. Okay. Any more questions, comments? All right, a motion to approve this.
I'll second.
I second. Oh, you seconded. Sorry. I thought you said awesome.
Voting is open.
Same thing.
Robert, if I could ask a question before you move on, and I guess I should let you announce the vote first.
Yeah, if Commissioner Ryan, Span, and Paul, if you could.
So,
Motion approved 7-0.
thank you. Your comment about trying to create a single agreement for sculpture and murals, I realize that I'm not with the city attorney's office, but that there is so much more to a sculpture than there is to a mural. I'm a little concerned that we may be creating an agreement that might frighten artists away.
I appreciate the insight to that. There's actually a way that the city attorney's office does that to make it, so the agreement itself is general, and that agreement is, there is a certain requirement. You have to have a business license, you have to have insurance, and there's a number of other requirements in that. Then what will happen is there is what's called an attachment, and attachment A is where we more specifically define the item, whether it is a mural, whether it is a sculpture, whether it is other piece of artwork. That's where that actually gets defined.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And moving on.
Okay. Our next item is the Escondido Creek Trail 2024-2025 work plan, also listed in the annual work plan's art solicitation objective. And again, this is going to be an overview of the program and the recommendations that were done by the Public Art Strategic Plans Subcommittee that met on June 18th. Just want to note that part of the reason why it was the Public Art Strategic Subcommittee committee was because that's where we started to establish the work plan process. Now next year will be a little bit different, wherein they'll actually have an actual subcommittee specific to each of these individual items. But because we wanted to move this forward a little bit faster, we utilized the Public Art Strategic Plan Subcommittee to be able to do that. However, I think you're going to find that they have done an amazing job and excellent work at proposing a variety of different options that are going to be displayed here. So, as a relatively quick overview, in 2020, the city received $8.5 million worth of funding from Proposition 68 grant. What that was designed to do is to expand and renovate the Escondido Creek Trail. That is also dependent on the different areas of concentration, and we do have two kind of different areas of concentration, which I'll be talking about a little bit later. Initially, as a part of this $8.5 million, only $125,000 was allocated to kind of those artistic design elements. And so what I also want to highlight for you, as you heard earlier today in the presentation, the Escondido Community Foundation has their art project for 2024, which includes the Creek Trail mural from artist Sasha Rezin, will also be a part of this now, which is great. So it allows us to be able to put even more art into the Creek Trail than what we had originally anticipated. Now, as a part of that 2024-2025 work plan, you voted at the last meeting to increase the funding from 125 to 250, which is amazing because that allows us the opportunity to, again, really dive into and expand the opportunities for art along the Creek Trail. Now, the project itself, just with all of the projects, will be aligning with the Public Art Strategic Plan. In addition, this will also align with the Escondido Creek Trail master plan as well. So here is the basic project map for you to be able to view. That expand goes all the way from Harmony Grove all the way to the North Midway Drive. So that's the actual full scope of this particular project. However, only minor improvements are being done between Harmony Grove and Great Day Park. Major improvements, that's where we're going to be concentrating a lot of our efforts, and that is from Broadway to Midway Drive. And there's a variety of different elements that are going to be a part of this project as a whole, not just the art element. And that includes, again, as I mentioned, the expansion of the path, which includes 2 separate pathways on either side of the channel. One is going to be a decomposed granite walking path, and the other one is going to remain that asphalt, hard surface, biking or wheeled vehicle path as well. They're also improving the lighting along there. They're doing fencing. They're doing some seating, shade structure. We have water bottle filling stations, outdoor fitness, and California-friendly landscaping, in addition to the artistic design elements, which we're going to be talking about in this particular process. So, with regard to the theme, we wanted a specific, very uniform approach to how we came to this particular project on the Creek Trail. And that we are essentially asking you as the commission to identify what this unified theme is going to be. Again, it does need to align with the Escondido Trail Master Plan, which I believe they have done that. There is one note that I do want to share with you. In the plan itself, there is identified the neighborhood healthcare building will be getting a mural on that particular building. They have requested from us that in some form or fashion it be health related, and so that's what they're asking for. That also means that they do have some influence over that design because it is private property, it is their building, so they do have an opportunity to say yay or nay to some of these items. So I just want to be very clear with that with you in regard to that. But I think that they've come up with an amazing number of different themes. So, as you saw earlier, one of the primary themes is flora and fauna, which was done as a part of the Escondido Community Foundation's theme. We also have community and heritage, also found in that previous artist rendering as well. And then the last selection is active lifestyle. Again, the active lifestyle playing a little bit more into the neighborhood healthcare building, that main traverse of a path along the city's central core. So let's talk a little bit more about project funding. There is $250,000, and what the subcommittee has decided to do is really kind of divide out the funding a little bit of that $250,000, because sometimes it's a little bit challenging, and when we're talking about a call for artists, I think it's important for the artists to know and to understand potentially what they're going to be working with. We will be working with the Escondido Community Foundation, having successfully accomplished a recent call for artists. We are going to be working with them to align our process a little bit more with their process, but does fit what we are currently working with. So, just to identify, the North Neighborhood Healthcare Building will be a single mural, and they have identified $50,000 specifically for that building. And then the creek trail itself, the walls on the channel are the ones that we are identifying as going to be painted, potentially on alternating sides and with multiple artists. There was a discussion among the subcommittee members to potentially select one single artist to paint the entire creek trail, but found that that might be potentially limiting, and so have a much greater diversity of style. They felt that it was necessary to not limit it to a single artist throughout the entire creek trail. They have identified $170,000 for multiple projects, murals in the creek channel along the trail as well. And then finally, at the entrance of the creek trail on Broadway, identified the potential for a sculpture in the neighborhood of about $30,000. And I put sculptures in there as, a potential. Maybe they have some ancillary pieces that they want to use, some complementary pieces, companion pieces. So that's why, but $30,000 is the total limit for that particular item. Project timeline. So again, the preparation of the packet would be taking place in the months of July and August of this year. Then in mid-August, there will be a city council approval. Unfortunately, the city council item that was supposed to go before them on July 17th, which would be the public art strategic plan, as well as the budget adjustments specifically for all of these projects we're working on, needed to be pushed a little bit farther out largely due to staff capacity. I'll be perfectly honest. I didn't have a lot of time to be able to prepare all the reports that were necessary. We also found there was a couple of additional steps that were required. As a result, city manager has pushed it back to August 14th, will be when that will be going before the city council. So then we cannot release a call for artists until after all of that has been done, because we need to make sure that we have all the proper funding for it. So as a result, that will not go out until late August. However, we believe, myself, my team, when I say my team, I mean Sandra, we believe that we can potentially be ready as soon as the 15th or 16th to issue that call for artists, should we be on top of everything to be able to put that packet together once the city council moves to approve that item on August 14th. So we should be able to move forward relatively quickly. Then again, in September, just like the previous item, we would receive all those submissions. We would be doing public input in October. Final decisions, approvals, and selections would be made in November at a commission meeting. We would be doing the agreements and administrative portion for the month of December. Likely that would bleed into January. And then we would also want to work with the contractor that is being selected or has been selected. I cannot recall that specifically, but specifically for the Creek Trail. To be able to do those improvements, and that we would coordinate all of that work with the construction company starting in January of 2025. And then from that point forward, we would establish kind of a time frame for them to be able to complete the work within that period of time. So with that, there is a lot of information to go over, to learn, to know, and that is going to require essentially a subcommittee, just like the Escondido Expression Subcommittee, to oversee that specific project. As just a really quick reminder for the subcommittees, when selecting a subcommittee, it's 2 to 3 commissioners that would serve on the specific subcommittee, and they serve as all of the same legal guidelines as the commission, as far as being publicly noticed, when they have to meet, where they have to meet, the involvement of city staff, any discussions, making sure we're meeting the requirements of the Brown Act, so on and so forth. Okay? So with that, the Escondido Creek Trail Subcommittee, once selected, would review all of the artwork submissions. They would determine which renderings would receive public input, and then again, they would make the final recommendations to the full Public Art Commission, and that would go we're anticipating obviously the November meeting that would happen. So, staff recommendations is to select a specific theme for the Escondido Creek Trail artwork, approve the division of funding that we have established, that the subcommittee has recommended, and then assign a subcommittee to oversee this project. That concludes my presentation, and I am available to take any comments or questions that you might have.
Thank you, Robert. And the subcommittee is here to answer any questions that you all might have with this.
So we have to choose one of the 3, flora and fauna, or community heritage, or active lifestyle. Is that correct?
Yes, sort of. And this was one of the things that we had a little difficulty with when we were on this subcommittee. What we're choosing today is going to be the overarching theme, the theme that will tie it all together. Because the Creek Trail Plan is written to include art that is, or to include themes that are environmental discovery, community heritage. There are going to be pollinator gardens in there. So the artists will, you know, it's like I said, we're looking for the theme that will tie it all together. We're not trying to make this so tight that we can't represent our community.
For sure. Thank you. Yeah, I think just to comment on that, I was really drawn to the flora and fauna theme. I think it can be expanded on, you know, interpreted in different ways. You know, you could take it as, you know, people and how they interact with flora and fauna. I like it. It gives the air of like organic, you know, there's such diversity in flora and fauna, and I think that's something to remind people of, especially because this is, the essence of this is you're walking, you're out in nature, you're, you know, taking in a fresh breath of air. So yeah, so that's just my input on that.
I was wondering, on a theme that could bring us through time, a time passage theme, how long is the trail going to be with the art? You know exactly?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Ryan, could you
How
repeat
long?
that question?
Like a mile or?
Oh, the
Art
major
itself.
improvements is almost 2 miles. I believe it's actually, I say almost 2 miles, I believe it's like 1.8.
That's a good amount of wonderful art. I tend to be more of a person that goes with themes. I would like to maybe suggest that we look at a timeline taking us through Escondido, through discovery of plants, how they were used earlier in Escondido, through the heritage of Escondido, through the development of Escondido, and then you have continuity that brings people along a history trail, but we could incorporate nature so well into that. History, discoveries. Within Escondido, we have such rich history. Are you aware, 1850, we had one of the top 5 gold mines in the country, yielding in over 100,000 at that time. So we have so many important phases to Escondido that people in Escondido aren't aware of. We had, yes.
Well, so my question is, it has to be one of these 3 themes?
That's kind of the tricky part about this. We are talking about the theme that will tie it together. And if you listen to what you just said, Terry, flora and fauna could tie together points in time and agriculture and what Escondido was built on. We can get our community, our heritage, our history, all with plants and birds. And because, I mean, look at where we live. We live in such a fertile place.
And that way, people walking along this course see a development of what's happened to Escondido, what's caused Escondido to grow and flourish, and also what makes it special. So to me, having a theme that ties everything in and makes sense is very important. A beginning, a middle, and an end.
Well, I'm not sure that we want to tie it down that tight. But realize too, as Robert said, as we're writing these calls, the theme that we decide on today is going to be primary, but whenever we're looking at art, we're going to look at the Creek Trail Plan. We're going to look at where it's happening in the Creek Trail to make sure that it's appropriate to that part of the trail. And we will also look at what our mission is in our specific plan.
Yeah, I like the either. I think flora and fauna and community and heritage. We could definitely, those to me seem very interchangeable. So I mean, I'd be happy with either one of those. But yeah, I agree with everyone with what everyone has already said. Either that flora and fauna idea is, I think, really cool because, like I said, agriculture. I think about like just different indigenous plants that have been here since before that. So yeah, good idea.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the community foundation proposal too, as well. That's going to be a part of that, and I think I'm also leaning towards like a balance between the flora and fauna and the community and heritage, especially because neighborhood healthcare wants a tie-in, right? They serve this community, and I feel like it's open-ended enough to fit what we would want to see within the creek trail.
I think our thought as a committee was that bringing the, I love brainstorming. I mean, it really opens your mind up to different parts. Oh, I never thought of that. But the community, we want something timeless, and I think we were thinking of that. So, and flora and fauna, certainly you could bring the community into it, keeping along the idea of the theme of the, that it's for everyone, makes you smile. I mean, I'm paraphrasing here. But just to narrow it down, I would like to make a motion that we do flora and fauna and bring in the, I'd like to make a motion that we do flora and fauna as the overarching theme.
Second that motion.
Voting is open. Motion approved, 7-0.
Just so I have some clarity here, sounds like flora and fauna is the theme you want to go with. Does that also include the approval of the division of funds? And then from there, I will also include a selection of who is going to sit on this particular subcommittee.
Those don't have to be all the same motions, do they?
I don't believe so.
No, they can
Okay.
be separate votes.
Okay, so I motion that we approve the budget as stated.
I second it.
Voting is open. Motion approved, 7-0.
Robert, I have a question. If you want to be on the committee, is that something we have to make a motion to?
I don't believe so. I defer to Zach, though.
Yeah, so in the structure of the subcommittee, as part of this motion, I would recommend that you include the names of the specific commissioners at this time. It would be most helpful so that we can designate who's going to be serving.
Before we go on with that, I'm confused about something having to do with the Brown Act.
Sure.
So if the people on that committee want to brainstorm,
Mm-hmm.
does it have to be here?
Yeah, so when it, and thank you, Commissioner Paul. The context of the Brown Act is that we want to maintain as much structure around these discussions as possible, just to avoid any, not only appearance of an issue that could arise, but also there is the likelihood that a serial meeting could occur where perhaps 3 members grab coffee, they're talking, and then an offhand chance that a commissioner bumps into someone else in town and speaks, and then you've formed an actual public art commission meeting, and we're in violation of the Brown Act. And especially with financing associated with this, it could tip things into a legal issue, and we just want to avoid that. So as a city, we kind of take a secondary approach when it comes to our subcommittees. We structure them in kind of the same format as a commission meeting, just to make sure we never even run up to that line. So that's kind of the purpose behind it.
So if you
Thank
go
you for
to,
that.
I'm sorry, you go.
Oh, no, I'm just thanking Zach for that.
Yes, Mr. Beck. So the meetings, any subcommittee meeting, anyone can, any of the commissioners or anyone, it's open to the public, right?
So it's open to the public technically, but if a commissioner then attends and then we have more than a quorum, that would not be able to proceed. So then it would have to switch from a subcommittee meeting to a commission meeting. So it would be precluding 4 of the commissioners from attending that meeting, but if they did step into that meeting, we would have to cancel that meeting and reschedule as a full commission.
I would like to be on that committee.
I would also like to be on that committee.
I would also like to be on the committee as well.
So if one of the 3 of you would like to make a motion
Oh.
for all 3 of you.
I make a motion that Commissioner Span, Commissioner Vargas, and Commissioner Rogers make up the subcommittee for the Creek Trail project.
Voting is open.
Second that motion.
Voting is open. Sorry, Commissioner Paul, it seems like the button. Do you mind tapping one more time? I'm so sorry. I see it right there. All right, perfect. It just went registered. Approved 7-0.
Wonderful, thank you. And now we're going to talk about the Grand Avenue project.
Okay. Last new business item, thankfully. And we're rolling with time, right?
And thank my new puppy named Athena for this, because she can only be alone for a few hours.
All right. So the next item we're going to be talking about is the Grand Avenue project. And again, that is in your 24-25 work plan. And as with the previous particular items, we are going to be giving, meaning I am going to be giving you an overview of the program and then recommendations from the Public Art Strategic Plan Subcommittee that also met on June 18th. So as just a quick overview, this project has been in development since 2015, with phase 1 being completed in 2022. And phase 2 that is going to be starting in late September. So there are 3 roundabouts that are planned for this particular phase, and they are at Grand and Maple, Grand at Broadway, Grand and Calmia. However, only the roundabout at Grand and Broadway will be wide enough to allow for a public art installation. Initially, as a part of the funding for this particular project, that was allowed for $250,000. And what you did in your previous meeting on May 20th was to increase this funding to $500,000, again, also aligning with the Public Art Strategic Plan. So here is just a very quick overview, very basic overview of what this looks like. The large roundabout is at Broadway and Grand, and then the small roundabouts will be at Maple Street and Grand, and then Calmia Street and Grand as well. Now, please keep in mind that this rendering here is not a good representation because it's not to scale and it doesn't have specific dimensions of the roundabout. So they look like they're all the same size. They are not all the same size. So, but I just wanted to give you a basic idea of what this project scope is going to be looking like. So again, when we start talking about the thematic overview, we want to provide a single unified approach to this particular project that conveys a message that will unify the community, that potentially tells a story, it remembers the past, it shares cultural identity, it creates a sense of place, it educates, and it inspires. And so through this process, the subcommittee has selected 3 themes for this particular project. So we're going to start with our first theme right here. Our first theme is nature, and then they specifically indicated trees as a good place to grow. And this can inspire hope and happiness that honors nature and our continual desire to find beauty in simple, everyday things. And these are a couple of examples only of projects. Thank you to Commissioner Rogers for sending this information over to me. These are some of the samples that she saw that might be something worth considering. Theme number 2 is called Places in Time. We are going to be talking about history and storytelling. We want to be able to, through this process, we want to be able to create a sense of place and to educate. It allows us to remember the past through symbology, establishing our place in time. One of the things I want to point out on the right side is the particular growing tree. And this is a really great example of how 2 themes can come together. And in this case, we're talking about nature and storytelling. The sculpture itself, the one on the right, the growing tree, includes dozens of shapes and objects carved into the tree that represent various symbols related to Franklin, Indiana, which is where this particular item is located. The last theme that I have listed here is authentically Escondido. So these are things that are unique to our city, whether it is our agricultural past or our shared cultural identity. These are messages are designed to unify the community and to celebrate Escondido. So those are your three themes. The other thing I wanted to touch base on is the potential for companion pieces. These would be related to the main roundabout project of the themes that you saw. They would either be along Grand Avenue or potentially throughout the city. And if selected, some of the other options that would be available that we would include in that call for artists would be the specific budget for those companion pieces, potentially the number of companion pieces, and or identify the specific locations of such companion pieces. Again, those companion pieces we could also say are totally optional for the artist to decide within the project, and we can have information in that call for artists that identify that specifically rather than potentially you as the commission directing or dictating that specifically. The project timeline is incredibly similar, if not identical, to the previous item with the Creek Trail project, with the preparation of the packet in July and August, and then waiting for that city council approval, which would be in mid-August, then the release for the call for artists in late August, the receiving submissions potentially in September. This is a very large project, and so as a result, instead of doing potentially a 30-day, we might want to consider doing a 45 or 60-day call for artists. And that gives the artists, especially those that are nationally known, maybe more time or opportunity to be able to do that. So please keep in mind this is a rough project timeline. It's not a specific one, especially based on potentially the direction that I would be receiving tonight to figure out how we would want to move forward. But again, assuming this is the timeline we move forward on, again, receiving those submissions in September, with October being public input, November being the final approval of those selections, December would be the agreements and the administration of those agreements, and then starting in January, the coordination of work with the Grand Avenue project manager. Now, the roundabout itself is already going to have a number of elements in it, depending on when the installation of the art would potentially go in. If the project, the Grand Avenue project is completed prior to the art being installed, there are a number of electrical that might already be in place. There is potentially irrigation that's already in place. There is potentially lighting that's would already be in place. What we're trying to do is really, if we can, coordinate all of these activities a little bit more simultaneously, if that's possible. In this case, it may not be possible just simply because of where we are starting in this particular process. So, because the project itself, the contractor has already been selected and is expected to start in late September or early October, immediately following the Cruising Grand season.
Robert,
Yes.
can you tell us, if you know yet, where the call for artists will appear?
I don't have that specific information as of yet. I don't know if I had shared this with you previously. The city recently converted to a new host for our website, and so instead of being escondido.org, we are now escondido.gov, and as a result, we've moved some things around on some of our pages, and so it would sit on one of our pages, but also we would be sending that call for artists out to our various networks through you, as I mentioned, and then there's a couple of other websites that would also be working through to send those call for artists out as well. As with the previous item that we had, again, I am recommending the selection of a subcommittee that oversees this project. And again, that would be 2 to 3 commissioners, also following those same legal guidelines as we previously discussed. Also, they would be reviewing the art submissions, determining what renderings would receive public input, and then making those final recommendations to the Public Art Commission for ultimate and final selection.
Robert, the downtown art has really been close to my heart. I mean, I would like to be on that committee. There was some talk about a lighted obelisk that wasn't included in this. Do you remember that?
I
It-
do vaguely remember that.
It would go under the storytelling.
I had the pictures, but I think I passed them along. But it was a lighted, I don't know, 20-foot obelisk that had carvings in it of some of the history or something that would relate to Escondido. It looked a little like Frank Lloyd Wright's work. It had a little, had a lot of design to it, had a lot of character to it, but it could be changed, colors could be changed, whether it was, I don't know, it might be a little bit too late for that, so, but.
No, I mean, as a call for artists, I mean, it depends on where you want to place that potentially, because if you were looking at,
Yeah.
so it could be like, it could fall here within the history and the storytelling, as you mentioned, with all of the different symbology that was potentially on there. And I think this would be the opportunity where that would possibly fall.
It's an opportunity, thank you.
Well, something else too, if there is a particular artist whose work you think we should have in Escondido, then make them aware of the call. That's how you, as a commissioner, can see the type of art that you believe is best for our city. You can identify an artist and say, make sure that you submit to this call, or I think that you would be perfect for this call. One of the things that we're trying to do in determining a theme and then doing calls for artists is to allow the artists to look at our city and bring us a proposal. That one project that the foundation showed us today with that's going on the Creek Trail, they simply put a call out for artists and didn't even tell them where they were putting their art. They said, we want art in Escondido. That artist identified that location and did the research about our cultural and our culture, heritage, what the narrative was for the Creek Trail, and they presented work that is absolutely Escondido. And they are fully prepared to work with our citizenry, with everyone, to further refine that. So we get better art if we don't try and design it, is my opinion. And I would like to be on this committee too.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, this concludes my presentation, actually, for the staff recommendation, which is specifically selecting a theme for the Grand Avenue project artwork, providing me with direction on the companion pieces, how do you want to move forward with that, and then, again, assigning a subcommittee to oversee the project. So,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just hop in. I would love to be on this committee. I think one reason why I was kind of drawn to this is just being on Grand. I mean, I've been there so many times, but also I love the nature element. I think it's a very easy tie-in with the Creek Trail. I would want that to be a little bit open-ended because it's such a centerpiece of Escondido, just the location of it. But I do believe like nature does, that theme is a bit more open-ended. I feel like because we'll have people from out of town coming to our community, we want them to have some sort of relationship with art, right? And to have some sort of thing that ties them to it versus something that is like very much like Escondido, like an inside joke, like, ooh, like if you're in Escondido, if you know, you know. So that's kind of just my input on that. But I think that I would be delighted to serve on this committee, this subcommittee, and I'm really excited for what could come out of this.
I wanted to talk really quickly about companion pieces. Robert, would you go back to the first, the nature slide? Thank you. So Valley of Fruition, this particular artist, this is not the tree that's shown here, but for one of the public pieces that he did, the leaves, rather than being leaves, were people. They were in the shape of people. He then created companion pieces that were in the same shape as those leaves, but they were people size, and they were spread throughout the city. So when we're talking about companion pieces, it's just little kind of breadcrumbs to lead you through the city to more art.
Another thing to add, I think color is really important. I think we have a lot of beautiful sculptures and other pieces of art, but I think for something to be in the center of Grand, for it to have color, I think that's what really drew me to the trees here, was that it has like this very simple but very classy pops of color, and I think that would really draw people's eyes to the artwork.
So we're to pick one of the three themes, correct? Could you show us the other two, please, again?
So this, again, this is nature, places in time, authentically Escondido.
Any of those themes you could interchange.
I think inherently it has to be tied to Escondido in some shape or another, right?
Trees are pretty near and dear to Escondido's heart. They're always a point of contention, right? This would be one that wouldn't get root bound and we wouldn't have to water it.
Right. I make a motion we do authentically Escondido. There's so many ways we can go with that. But I think whether it's a tree, whether it's the avocado, or something that would relate to it, would, like you said, be an insight. Just and having the little breadcrumbs throughout the city would just be kind of a way to tell a story throughout the city. So I make a motion, we choose the theme authentically Escondido.
I'll go ahead and second that motion.
Voting is open. Oh, no problem. I had to update this in the system, so you're totally fine. Commissioner Rogers and Kelleher, do you mind? I'm so sorry, it's not registering yours. Oh, take your time.
Yes, Andre.
No, my apologies. Motion approved, 7-0. And there still needs to be a subcommittee assigned to this as well.
And I'll make the motion that Commissioner Kelleher, Commissioner Span, Commissioner Rogers are on that committee.
I'd love to second that motion.
Voting is open, and it'll say staff liaison report just for everyone's awareness. Motion approved, 7-0.
And just again, one point of clarification is with regard to the companion pieces. What I was hearing is, again, leave it open to the artists themselves and not to make any direction at this point in time.
Agreed. Do we need a motion? Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Robert, I'm trying to remember exactly what you said. I think on one of the roundabouts, Grand and Broadway, you mentioned some of the works were already in play and that you may not have access to as much maybe electricity or water.
So what's happening is that due to setbacks that are required specifically for our fire department to be able to pass through the different locations, Kelmia and Maple on Grand, so both of those intersections, are so small that they will not be able to house any type of art piece whatsoever, because we wouldn't want a fire truck going past them and knocking the art piece off. However, Broadway has large enough setbacks for them to be able to, us to be able to put in a good-sized art piece. Depending on where we will be starting in the process with the construction, they may be preset for the electrical and lighting and all that kind of stuff. However, if we get in early enough, we can tell the construction team, or the project manager in this case, where specifically the artist will want those items to be able to illuminate, electrify, whatever it might be specifically for that art piece.
Yes, so fire departments generally need a 20-foot turnaround, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Honestly, I'm
It's quite a bit.
not a firefighter, I can't tell you. Not that I didn't want to be one when I was a kid. But yeah, so my understanding is because of the setbacks that are required, those other two intersections will not have any type of art, but that's why we're working specifically off of Grand and Grand and Broadway. You're welcome.
Queen Calafia report.
Yay. Okay. One of the things that we gave you the last time in the specific report was to provide some visitor data. And so that is our commitment each time, is to provide you with specific visitor data to the Queen for the 2 preceding months. So at this point in time, so for the month of May 2024, we were open for a total of 11 days. According to the visitor logs, we had 1,449 guests. And again, I'm going to remind you that the parentheses there, so that 818 is the way that we are logging that is actually the metadata electronic tracking on cell phones. So we know that when we put a geofence specifically around Queen Calafia, that 818 people visited. They happen to have their data tracking information on their cell phones, so we know for sure we had 818 visitors. However, our specific visitor log shows 1,449 visitors. We did have 2 private tours in the month of May. And then in June, we were open for 7 days. The visitor tracking log was 1,225 visitors, with the information from the other data as 743 visitors. We had no private tours during that month. Now, a couple of updates I want to provide you is that we are supposed to be doing quarterly cleaning. It has been a while since the Queen got a nice little bath. And so we gave her a little bath on the week of June 24th through the 28th. And so that we were closed during those couple of days. Now I will tell you that a number of docents were a little bit concerned about how that was taking place, and so I just wanted to share that information with you. Our Public Works Department was the one who took care of that. They took great care in managing the Queen to make sure that they were very delicate in all the right places. I did have a conversation both with the park manager as well as the technicians that were there working on the Queen specifically. They used scaffolding, so they were not climbing up on the Queen at all. We know that that's very sensitive. We don't want anybody to fall in. We don't want to damage the item. They were using also a soap and water mixture, so nothing harsh. It was nice, easy soap and water mixture as well. And they did pressure washing on the floor. So when pressure washing was done, because those are different type of tile work, pressure washing was actually done on the floor. They did what they could to make sure they reached all those difficult spots, but being on the scaffolding, you can't necessarily reach all the way over to apply the appropriate pressure to make sure she was completely clean, but she has a nice little shine on her now, so she's good to go. Just to kind of let everybody know that as of July 1st, 2024, so just last week, All private tours, so those are groups of 10 or more, will cost for doing any type of private tours, and those will be $5 per person. Those fees collected will go into an art maintenance fund, and I know that is something that clearly coincides with your desire to really start building a revenue source specifically for the maintenance of our art, whether it be the Queen or the community piece or one of our other pieces that we will be adding to our collection. I know that's really important. So we are working with our finance department to establish that particular fund that's not associated with a capital project fund, which has very specific limitations as to what we can versus what we cannot do with that. So that's the first step in this process, and so that's where we're going to be moving that. In addition to, we do have QR codes out of the site, as well as I believe we have like business cards as well. So we hand those out to people. They can snap a picture on that business card, a QR code, and be able to donate if they so choose as well. The other thing that is really great that is coming is that groups will be able to book their tours online through our registration system. So instead of having to call up, sometimes that process takes a little bit of time, getting a hold of the right person and scheduling with a specific docent. What we're going to be doing is working with the docents a little bit farther in advance to say, what do we have available, and making those times available potentially to those private groups. And so that will be done again through our community services department's registration system. So that is also coming. So it's just a great update. We'll let you know when that actually goes live, and we'll go from there.
I have a question.
Sure.
Will you take a group of less than 10 for a minimum payment of $50?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
I have one question, it's yes or no. You're doing geo-tracking. Does that mean there's no need for the clicker anymore, or is it?
Absolutely not. We definitely still have a need for the clicker, because you notice the difference in those numbers, and so those numbers with that clicker and the visitor log, there's a specific discrepancy. So all we are doing is we're just tracking both of those items independently and figuring out kind of where we're at.
Fantastic. Okay.
Staff liaison report, and I think we're almost done. I think this will be the shortest meeting we will have had.
That'll be longer. When do we make a suggestion for next? We have to. I know it has to be seconded and all that.
Right.
For something for the next agenda.
Yeah, that will be after my report, actually, I believe.
Sorry.
Okay. So a couple of the mural projects that were holdovers from kind of the previous year, we're still working on getting them finished and accomplished as much as we possibly can. The hummingbirds, they have completed all of their necessary paperwork, but of course we're rolling into summer. It's really hot, so the artist is going to wait until approximately September, October to get started on that project. But that project is now fully ready to go, so we're very happy about that. Bella Rosas is the next project, and that one is almost ready to go. We are still missing, I believe it's some insurance items on that particular one. But again, we are making progress on some of these items. The Know Your History, we are waiting on one final thing. I know this project is completed, it's up. The artist has not received their money yet because we are still missing that one last piece, and that happens to be a signature from the property owners, the only thing that we're missing. So we're waiting for that to be accomplished. As soon as we receive that, we'll pay out the artist, and they'll be good to go. And then the skate park mural, if you recall, that's the high school students. That mural is at Washington Park. It is completed. We have completed the paperwork, and we are just simply waiting on the final invoice from the school district to pay that out. So we're good there. The next item on my report is the Public Art Strategic Plan. The report is currently in our graphics department. It is being designed at the moment. And your photos earlier today, thank you very much, will be incorporated as a part of that particular report. So as soon as that comes out, we will send you a draft, and we'll go from there. The next item I alluded to earlier in one of my presentations, which is The presentation to the City Council specifically on the Public Art Strategic Plan has been pushed to August 14th. That includes not just the strategic plan, but also the budget adjustments that are required for us to be able to move forward with your annual work plan. So pending City Council approval, that's when we can start moving forward with some of those items. As just a point I want to make for you is that we do not have that same conflict with regard to the Escondido Expressions program, because that was already budgeted for and we made no adjustment to that particular fund. So that's why that one's able to move forward at a much faster pace than those other items. So without City Council approval, because you have already approved that one. And then lastly is the municipal code update. So you may recall there were some language and some cleanup that we need to do specifically with the municipal code around public art. That is in process right now. It is sitting with our planning department, and then shortly after the planning department does need to go to the planning commission because it sits in the zoning code, and the planning commission oversees the zoning code. So it does have to go to them before we move that forward. That will likely happen before the end of the year, but I cannot guarantee it. So we are moving the item for the municipal code and the public art strategic plan to City Council separately. So instead of excuse me, instead of having them come together, they'll be a little bit separate. And that concludes my report.
I have a couple of questions about the murals, about your project tracking sheet. First of all, know your history. That mural is complete, and we did a mural celebration for that the second Saturday of June, and it was very well attended. It was really wonderful. There were more than 40 people there, and it was very interesting to have the artist and the author of one of the books speak. And then Commissioner Ryan was there and talked about how the committee worked with Zane to develop that painting. So that was a really special celebration. Then the skate park mural is finished. Last year, I went to a celebration for a mural at the skate park. Who organized that? Do we need to be doing that? Or did Sudi do that?
That was the school district that did that. I will reach out to school district to find out
Okay.
how they want to handle that.
Okay. And while I'm on mural celebrations, a privately funded mural has just been completed on the Photographer's Eye Gallery. And we, DBA, is planning, DBA, Photographer's Eye, Zane, all of us are planning the celebration for that one on Saturday, August the 10th at 4 p.m. So commissioners, if you would put that on your calendar, we can all be in one place as long as we don't speak to each other, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
The Brown Act ceremonies are accepted.
Okay, all right. What is your address, Donna? It's the Photographer's Eye Gallery. It is across the street from Distinction Gallery. It is next to Heritage Garden. Between Juniper and Ivy, but it's the Juniper end, and it's, like I said, it's right next to Heritage Garden. Zane is working on the name for that mural before we can do the announcement and get that sent out. But it's coming. If you just mark it on your calendars, that would be really great. Let's see. I know that Commissioner Span wants to talk about the potentially putting something else on the agenda for a later meeting. I have a question. I recently had a conversation with a representative of a Rotary Club. He came to me at another event and he said, "Carol, what can my club do for public art?" And I said, "Well, it's not very sexy, but we need money for maintenance." And we were having dinner. We had dinner together later, and we were talking about we could do a little road show where we go out and talk to Rotaries about helping us raise money to support maintenance for our public art. So what I need to know, where do we talk about what my restrictions are here, how I can do this, how do I move forward? Do we need to put this on as a future agenda item? How do we do this?
It's on. There we go. Yeah, that's a great question. I would recommend placing that on a future agenda item so we can talk through all of the specific details about how you want to manage that. Because as a commissioner, you are a representative of the city council and a representative of this commission. And as a result, there needs to be some sort of consensus about how you want to approach it.
All right, then I'm making a motion to put raising funds for public art maintenance on the next Public Art Commission agenda meeting.
And all you need is a second. You don't
Okay.
need to vote on it. So if it's more,
I'll second it.
Oh, please.
Okay, we've talked about for a while is the public art that's already installed, dividing it up between the commissioners so that whatever neighborhood you're in or whatever. But there are things that are just in disarray, and some things look great, and some things just need a little boost. So I would like to make a motion to put, I don't even know how to,
Survey.
to assign commissioners to public art that's already installed.
I second that motion.
Thank you.
This follows along with putting something on the agenda. I'd like to look at options for the sculpture that's in the Michael Shopping Center. That's one that is now becoming so obvious that it's being vandalized. It's gone from one stone done down now to a whole half of a side. And it's really a very nice sculpture, but we really need to look at options for that before we consider it something that we we no longer have actually on display.
For moving it from its place?
Perhaps for an option, I think we need to look at options. One of those could be moving, one could be repairing it, putting better lighting in at night when it's being probably vandalized.
That the community piece?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've always said this, if we show respect as a commission, then perhaps the public will show the same respect. And also if we provide adequate lighting.
Well, the sooner we get it repaired, the sooner the destruction will probably stop, because that's something that happens. If there's already damage, people just continue to do it.
I've brought this up before.
I know. So are you going to make a motion, or do you think that this would roll into our discussion about trying to raise money for maintenance?
I'm afraid if we wait too much longer, I don't know whether Public Works would get involved in this and getting the lighting.
See, the thing is, Terry, I'm sorry, Commissioner Ryan, I apologize. The thing is we don't have any money. So talking about how we're going to fix it or installing lighting is like putting the cart before the horse, in my mind. But certainly, if you want to make a motion, we can entertain it.
Well, could we have a discussion here? Do you feel the piece is worthwhile spending energy, time, money?
It's listed in our plan as it's like the top of the list for repair. Let's hope it's not for what's the word? Deassess. What is it?
Deaccessioning.
Deaccessioning. Yeah. I don't want to get there. I want to fix this piece. I want to save this piece. And just so you know, I specifically asked this Rotary if they could come up with the money to repair it for us. We're looking at least $14,000, and a single Rotary is not going to give us that money. We need a plan. We need a plan to get money, and then we know that this is top of the list.
So, would we put on an agenda a plan to figure out money? Funny.
I think it's already added.
Yeah, okay.
Raising funds for art.
Yeah.
Yeah, it appears as though for the agenda's purposes next meeting, this would be germane to that discussion, so I think it would naturally fit the one that Chair Rogers has already placed on the agenda.
Great.
And we don't need to add another, all
No,
right.
I don't believe so.
Thank you.
This isn't another agenda item, but I was looking at the calendar. Are we supposed to meet on November 11th? That's Veterans Day.
I wouldn't imagine so. City Hall is closed that day, but let me,
Thank you.
So, yeah, we caught that a little bit late is what Sandra was telling me. And so initially we were going to push it up a week, but I think because I'm going to be on vacation that week that we're pushing it up to, if we could push it out a week and make it November 18th, I think that would be the most ideal. That would also give us a little bit more time because we will have a number of items that will be coming before you for final selection. So it will give the subcommittees time to be able to meet to have those conversations, if you're amenable to that.
I am amenable.
Do we need a motion? Or
No.
is that, it's just something you've taken care
Staff
of?
can
Yeah,
change.
we're good.
Zach tells me no, so that means we're good.
totally good.
Robert, I have one other question. With, as far as mural guard, is that something that we're interested in to protect the murals from graffiti?
So as you recall, Commissioner Ryan, we had a conversation about putting into the artist agreement specifically some sort of graffiti coat. So
Correct.
it's just one of those things that will be standard for us to be able to include.
Okay,
So while we can, potentially make a recommendation, it would still be the responsibility of the artists themselves to decide which type of product, as long as it is an anti-graffiti coat, that they can use.
Thank you.
Any more questions, comments? We're adjourned.